As the sun peaks over the African savanna, a small assembly of early humans stirs beneath a venerable baobab. No towering limestone cliffs or protective cave mouths provide refuge from the elements. Yet, for generations, these humans have flourished here, crafting ingenious dwellings solely from nature's bounty. The pervasive image of our forebears huddled in dim caves scarcely hints at the breadth of human ingenuity. Thus, what did our species do for millions of years before discovering caves? And how did they conjure homes out of seemingly nothing? When we envision prehistoric people, a consistent picture emerges. Fur-clad figures hunched around fires at cave entrances, their movements illuminated by the dancing flame on rugged stone walls. This caveman archetype is so deeply ingrained in our collective consciousness that it seldom faces scrutiny. However, the startling reality is this: caves suitable for human habitation were incredibly scarce, and for the vast majority of human history, our ancestors lived entirely in the open. The evidence is literally etched in stone. Archaeological sites across Africa, the cradle of human evolution, unveil a narrative radically different from the cave-dwelling myth. At Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, where some of our earliest ancestors resided 2 million years ago, researchers have found extensive traces of human occupation, with virtually no caves present. Instead, they've unearthed something far more extraordinary: the remnants of the world's inaugural constructed shelters. The story commences with Homo habilis, our initial tool-making ancestors. Populating the expansive plains of East Africa, these early humans confronted a defining challenge for our species: how to forge protection where none naturally existed. Their solution was brilliantly simple yet revolutionary. Utilizing only stones and branches, they erected humanity's first artificial shelters. At locations such as DK1 in Olduvai Gorge, archaeologists Mary and Louis Leakey uncovered circular stone arrangements dating back 1.8 million years. These were not random clusters, but carefully positioned foundations for temporary sanctuaries. The stones, some exceeding 30 pounds, had been intentionally transported from distant locales and arranged in oval patterns approximately 12 feet across. Site analysis indicated that these stone circles once anchored rudimentary windbreaks crafted from thorny acacia branches. Yet, this was merely the beginning. As our ancestors dispersed across the globe, they encountered environments where even fundamental materials were scarce. On Eurasia's windswept grasslands, early humans honed techniques that would impress a modern survivalist. They learned to interpret the landscape like a text, identifying subtle depressions that could be enhanced into sleeping areas, and discerning which tree species offered the most resilient structural components. One of the most ingenious solutions arose from humans who first ventured into forested territories. Archaeological findings from sites like Bilzingsleben in Germany, dating to 400,000 years ago, reveal something remarkable: tree platform shelters. Using primitive stone tools, these early humans meticulously selected living trees with appropriate branch configurations, then modified them to create elevated sleeping platforms safe from ground predators and floods. The engineering underpinning these arboreal shelters was astonishingly sophisticated. Analysis of tool marks on preserved wooden artifacts demonstrates that these early builders comprehended weight distribution, opting for branches capable of supporting multiple adults while preserving the tree's vitality. They wove smaller branches into sleeping mats and devised lean-to roofs using broad leaves and bark sheets secured with hand-twisted plant fiber cordage. But perhaps the most impressive pre-cave technology emerged in regions where even trees were rare. On the Central Asian steppes, where early humans encountered vast grasslands interspersed only by occasional rock outcroppings, our ancestors became master earthworkers. At Kostenki in Russia, archaeologists have unearthed evidence of underground sleeping chambers dating back 800,000 years. These were not mere holes in the ground, but meticulously engineered subterranean dwellings. Using wooden digging sticks and flat stones as shovels, early humans excavated oval chambers up to 6 feet deep and 10 feet across. The excavated earth was mounded around the perimeter to form windbreaks, while the interior walls were lined with grass and hide to prevent collapses. Overhead, a framework of bent saplings supported a roof of woven grass mats that could be swiftly removed for ingress and egress. The sophistication of these early shelters extended beyond simple protection from the elements. At Gesher Benot Yaakov in Israel, dating to 750,000 years ago, researchers discovered evidence of specialized shelter zones within early human camps. Distinct areas were designated for sleeping, tool manufacturing, food preparation, and waste disposal. The first instances of organized domestic architecture in human history. Water management represented another critical innovation. Early humans inhabiting open environments could not rely on cave formations to channel rainwater, so they developed their own drainage systems. Excavations at Terra Amata in France, dating to 400,000 years ago, reveal carefully dug channels around shelter sites designed to divert rainwater away from living areas. Some sites even display evidence of elevated sleeping platforms that kept occupants dry during seasonal flooding. The materials employed in these early shelters underscore our ancestors' incredible resourcefulness. In coastal regions, early humans gathered driftwood and seaweed to construct dome-shaped huts anchored with stones and shells. In arid zones, they learned to identify and harvest the few available resources: date palm fronds for roofing, dried grass for insulation, and clay-rich soil for waterproofing. One of the most remarkable discoveries originated from the Caucasus Mountains, where researchers uncovered a 1.8 million-year-old site that completely redefined our understanding of early human architecture. At Dmanisi in Georgia, archaeologists found evidence of semi-permanent settlements that our ancestors revisited season after season. These early humans had devised a standardized shelter design that could be rapidly assembled and disassembled as required. The Dmanisi shelters utilized a brilliant modular system. Standardized wooden poles were cut to specific lengths and stored in underground caches. When the group returned to the site, these poles could be quickly erected into framework structures using pre-dug post holes. Hide covers, also stored in subterranean pits, could then be stretched over the framework to create weatherproof shelters in a matter of hours. This system reveals something profound about early human cognition. Our ancestors were not merely reacting to immediate shelter needs, but engaged in complex, long-term planning. They thought seasonally, even annually, preparing for future requirements and developing standardized solutions that could be replicated across diverse locations. The transition from these open-air shelters to cave occupation occurred gradually and was not universal. Even after humans began inhabiting caves in some regions, many groups continued to favor constructed shelters. The reasons were pragmatic. Caves were often damp, poorly ventilated, and home to dangerous predators. Many were situated far from water sources or prime hunting grounds. Conversely, constructed shelters could be built precisely where they were needed. Archaeological evidence shows that early humans often modified natural shelters when they encountered them. At Kesem Cave in Israel, dating back 400,000 years, researchers discovered that early inhabitants had extensively altered the cave interior, creating artificial walls, elevated sleeping areas, and specialized activity zones. They were not simply accepting nature's provisions, but adapting them to their specific requirements. The technology of pre-cave shelter construction demanded specialized knowledge passed down through generations. Experiments by modern archaeologists have demonstrated that building effective shelters using only stone tools and natural materials necessitates a comprehensive understanding of local ecology, seasonal patterns, and construction techniques. This knowledge had to be preserved and transmitted across generations, fostering some of humanity's earliest technological traditions. Tool marks on preserved wooden artifacts reveal that different groups developed distinct construction techniques suited to their local environments. Groups residing in bamboo forests developed different lashing methods than those in deciduous woodlands. Coastal peoples devised different water-resistant treatments than inland groups. These regional variations represent some of the earliest examples of human cultural diversity. The social implications of pre-cave shelter construction were profound. Erecting substantial shelters required cooperation and coordination among group members. Archaeological evidence suggests that shelter construction was often a communal activity, with various individuals contributing specialized skills. This collaboration may have been a driving force behind the evolution of complex human social structures. Evidence from sites like Schöningen in Germany, dating to 400,000 years ago, indicates that shelter construction sites also served as hubs for tool manufacturing, food processing, and social interaction. The collective act of building homes helped forge the social bonds that would become fundamental to human civilization. The abandonment of constructed shelters in favor of caves, where it occurred, often coincided with climatic shifts that rendered open-air living more challenging. During glacial epochs, as temperatures plummeted and sustenance diminished, the energetic efficiency of utilizing natural cover surpassed its drawbacks. Yet, even through these eras, numerous human communities consistently augmented cave settings with built components. It is particularly noteworthy that many methodologies devised by our predecessors who lived before cave habitation persisted long after such dwellings became prevalent. Aboriginal populations globally sustain intricate shelter construction customs whose roots extend back millions of years. The domed constructions of Arctic inhabitants, the raised platforms used by those in tropical forests, and the subsurface abodes of desert inhabitants all mirror strategies initially conceived in humanity's nascent stages. Contemporary survival specialists examining these ancient methods are frequently astonished by their efficacy. Military survival curricula now impart practices initially devised by early humans who possessed no implements beyond modified stones and sharpened branches. The core tenets, comprehending indigenous resources, collaborating with environmental forces rather than opposing them, and fashioning modular arrangements for swift assembly, are as pertinent now as they were 2 million years prior. The chronicle of pre-cave human shelters ultimately narrates ingenuity emerging from exigency. Confronted with the imperative of enduring in exposed surroundings, our forebears did not await nature's provisions. They forged their own through developing apparatuses and approaches that established the groundwork for all subsequent human construction. When we survey the archaeological evidence with a novel perspective, we discern not rudimentary cave dwellers, but rather brilliant engineers who resolved intricate challenges with elementary devices. They were the inaugural architects, urban planners, and engineers. Their breakthroughs, ranging from subterranean chambers to elevated platforms and modular building frameworks, instituted principles that perpetually shape modern housing construction. The next occasion you observe a temporary shelter fashioned from tarpaulins and shopping trolleys, or an emergency relief structure constructed from prefabricated elements, recall that you are observing methods first originated by humans possessing only rocks and sticks. The resourcefulness that enabled our kind to flourish in environments lacking inherent benefits continues to assist us presently, serving as a reminder that the paramount shelter technology is human inventiveness itself.